Good afternoon, everybody. Another day, another dollar, back to work on the road. I wanted to talk about something I witnessed last night, or even watched. And I say witnessed because I want to know, does anybody understand why our allies are not helping us with this Israeli-Iran war? Most of you probably have no clue, or some of you are catching the opinions from other YouTubers, if not from news media. But has anybody ever questioned, why are we as the United States going at it alone? I mean, some may say, hey, it's because, Trump wants to get rid of the terrorists. Trump wants to eliminate the nuclear threat. Here's the problem. Just a couple of days ago, even weeks ago, there's been independent news journalists, or let's just say journalists, interviewing people from Iran and former citizens of America who were Iranian who got deported because they supported Palestine. Now, why would they get deported for supporting Palestine, not their own country? Well, you see, I watched this interview from, I'm going to try to pronounce her name right, Hele Datoyi. It's Helyeh, I believe. And she was a student at a law school, I think it was Yale. When she protested for the Palestinians, they revoked her visa and passport along with everybody else. So they were and this has been going on for a while, especially under Trump. In fact, she got deported last year. This is around the time a lot of universities got shut down for protests. That's why a lot of college students for spring break have no clue what the hell's going on anymore. So she had an interview about 2 days ago by independent, I think it was a journalist. And he asked some hard questions. He actually asked some not just hard questions, but the same questions everybody's curious about. One of the main things he asked was, how do the people of Iran feel about the regime, about the protesting, and about outside influence and the Western world? The reason why he asked that, because America seems to still tout, out of all of what Israel's done to Palestine, which drew Iran into this in the first place, which was genocide towards the Palestinians, all of a sudden, and there's been numbers floating around, from 10,000 to 30 to 50,000 protests killed. But the funny thing is, I saw somebody look at an article and was asking the question, like, how, in fact, this was on Joe Rogan, now that I mentioned it. Joe Rogan believes that it was about 30 plus thousand, but the guy who was actually explaining it said that the article that was explaining the amount was a health advisor that used the numbers 30,000. Now, that was a red flag for me, because out of all the people that's supposed to be handling these bodies, you have the police, you have the coroners, you even have the military, EMs, all that. Out of all of them, a health advice. Like, what is he doing over there? Like, you're supposed to be dealing with people's health, not dead bodies. You're not a coroner. That was the red flag. So the numbers are all over the place, but it was enough fuel to gaslight the protesters even further, which I discussed in my last video. So she had to answer the questions. One of the things that struck me, which was towards the the question about how do the Iranians feel about Western influence when they protest, she actually said this, and she's living in Iran right now, believe it or not. And she's doing fine because she says, to be honest, overall, a lot of people that were against the regime are now realizing they made a mistake. They realize who the real enemy is. From all the bombing by Israel and the United States, they realize the United States don't really care about the Iranian people or the Palestinian people because they support Israel 100%, which was the case. Number two, she said a lot of the older generational Iranians understand the problems of the regime. What she said was the reason why the traditional Iranians do not protest like that is because they understand the hardship has been coming from decades of sanctions. Decades. And I said this in my videos multiple times. The people of Iran are struggling because of decades of sanctions. Here's the other thing she mentioned. And this is what started it 40 plus years ago. Iran realized sharing their resources with other Western countries was a bad idea because they kept controlling how they wanted the resources out of Iran. So they wanted to use the resources for the local region. That's kind of why they wanted to go national, because Britain was controlling their oil. Now America is kind of controlling their oil, along with everybody else. And then Iran got demonized when the United States under Eisenhower gave them nuclear power to power their country because their oil was being controlled. They couldn't even, get oil to fire up the refineries like they wanted to give power in the region. So they switched to nuclear, which is independent. Hence, fast forward today, you got Trump talking about, oh, America's scared, we're going to have terrorists dropping nukes on us. First of all, that's a tired old excuse since Germany. It's a tired excuse. Okay? The second thing she mentioned, the young people are the ones that are being gaslit and brainwashed by Western ideals, not realizing it doesn't even equate to their traditions at all. And the Western influence doesn't care about the Iranian traditions. Even if they want to hold on to some, they don't care. And that's why when Muslims had to migrate to Europe during these wars, you have these low-key Christian versus Muslim fights and conflicts in Europe. Because most Western traditions, which is generally fueled by Christianity and Catholicism, don't really care about how the Muslim traditions are. The biggest issue I see a lot that's coming around too is you got so-called women's rights from the Western world talking about the hijab is a part of slavery and oppression. And I'm sitting like, do y'all even know how to look up history? Because the hijab has got nothing to do with oppression. Nothing at all. It's to protect the woman from sexual assault, sexual debauchery, and all that. You know what I'm saying? The very thing that we have a problem in the Western world, hence pornography, the porn industry that is running rampant. It's spreading into social media. The prostitution in the streets. Women, every time you go on social media, it's all in my feed. It's starting to get annoying. I'm seeing women in tight, high-ass shorts trying to show their ass, trying to fucking simp trap men. I call simp trapping. They fucking baiting men. And then the comments are flooded with men, thirst-trapped men, and then they start talking shit about us. In Muslim countries, they don't have that fucking problem. But the young people think the freedom of what they see in the Western world is better than what they're going through. So that's what she said. They're brainwashed, and then they realize when they get over here, they're not even treated properly. They're not treated right. They get, you know what I'm saying? Then the other thing she mentioned, that Iran, like every other country, has radical groups when it comes to politics, nationalists, Zionists, and so you got infighting among them. So the protesters that were shot, unfortunately, and I don't care if you don't want to hear it or not, they were influenced by Western ideals, and Trump took advantage of them and had them killed. He knows better, because Trump is the type of man, if you support him, do or die, he's going to take your support and doesn't give a fuck how you end up. Because again, like I said, this happened to Hong Kong. They went through the same shit. They were getting shot, beat down. It was brutal over there. And Trump did the same thing to them and turned his back, and they got annexed anyway. So the Iranians are now realizing America don't give two flying fucks about this situation. They want Israel to take over the country. They're seeing this. It's all over the media, and India is calling this shit out. Now, let's go to the friends part. Why Americans are being left behind by our NATO friends. It all boils down to intelligence. If journalists around the world can see this and reporting this and linking this information on social media, then how do you think the intelligence agencies are getting the same information? But see, the problem is they're low-key not reporting everything for the agenda of their governments. But they know. They see this. Because they also have information on other countries' military movements, apparently. So, if the intelligence agencies, like our CIA, know what the fuck is going on in these countries, but they twisting the narrative for their people and our people to believe a certain narrative, to have hate towards other countries, then when it comes down to raging war, when there's no threat, and you're told that you still have to finish other wars that America and Britain started, or even Russia, because you owe us money, well, they're going to sit back like, wait, hold up. We've been helping you lie with all the intelligence all these decades. Now you telling us to clean up your mess or else. And we're taking repercussions from all this. People are dying. Citizens are getting genocided. Nah. See, it eventually, I saw this coming for a long time. Eventually, countries that know the truth and are tired of being dragged into wars with lame excuses, tired excuses, especially the nuclear excuse, the terrorist group excuse, when countries are actually fighting each other because of two things, territory and religion. That's the only reason why Middle East fights anyway. It's not about resources, which is what America waged war over. Most of Europe and NATO don't want no part of that shit, because guess what? They've been down that road. It's like they've been there, done that. You know? I didn't even know my camera was that far out. My bad. So, I know for a fact, Europe, especially Spain, have intelligence on Iran, just like the journalists, just like India. India is, to be honest, and I will abide by how they feel. They're getting tired of us. They're getting tired of Trump. I know the whole world's getting tired of Trump, because at the G20 in South Africa, Trump didn't attend. They roasted the fuck out of his ass and the entire country of America. I watched it. They roasted the fuck out of us. They even said they were so glad he wasn't there. They could voice their opinion and actually get shit done. And then the president of the EU, she said, after this, we're going to push for renewable energy with solar and wind. fuck what Trump say, because the world's getting tired of these oil wars, and it's affecting countries at random. Now it's West Asia. Last time it was America. I think it was America. I don't know how, but it affected us because we went to war in Iraq and then Afghanistan, and Iraq got smart, burned the fucking oil fields. That fucked us. So NATO, and get this, NATO is already irritated that Trump wants to annex Greenland from Europe with no agreement, no deal, just take it for military purposes. When we already have bases on Greenland, number one. Number two, they weren't being used, so they shut them down, which is viable. And number three, Trump wants to use Greenland to extend the Iron Dome that he wants to call the Golden Dome with outdated concepts that it's going to come out of our tax dollars anyway, honestly. And Europe is like, wait, but now you're acting like Putin, for real. And they accuse Chinese president, for real. So, NATO is getting tired of covering up for our lies, for one. They're getting tired of these ceaseless, pointless, resource economic wars we keep waging. And then another thing they're getting tired of, we have Democratic presidents that make viable deals with these countries to actually have peace. And you got a Republican destroying it. And it's like, yo, what the fuck? So it's to the point NATO knows what's going on in Iran. They know. That's why Spain was the first country to put their fucking foot down and say, you know what? No, hell no. Hell no. No, they were not a threat. Y'all was negotiating. In fact, Europe was on board for the most part to protect Palestine. But the problem is, Israel is part of NATO. They, and they don't know what to do because Israel is part of NATO. They were on board to have Netanyahu tried, but again, Trump derailed that to protect him. All right, so that plan scrapped. So, all right, well, Iran was abiding by the audits, the Iranian audits put in place by Obama. NATO agreed. Because, you know why? Because everybody else got nuclear weapons. To be honest, in all fairness, why do you have, and I have the actual chart snapshotted, it's almost like 10 to 15 countries with nuclear weapons, and you want to demand other countries not have nuclear weapons. Like, make that make sense. That's fucked up. Pakistan got nukes. Iran does not. And see, to be honest, if Pakistan into this war, which they on the brink, but they're trying not to go down that road because they're dealing with the Afghanis, this shit is going to go crazy. It's going to go nuke. All right? We're already cooked as it is. It's going to go nuclear for real. Pun intended. They're trying not to go nuclear, but there's hints on the table. If Israel gets fucking frustrated and desperate, they may drop a small nuke on Iran and make the whole region uninhabitable. They don't give a fuck. And guess where that nuclear cloud and fallout is going to swing towards? India. That's why Israel don't care, because India doesn't care for Israel. So if the nuclear fallout and the nuclear cloud shifts east, which most of anything that happens does shift east, it's going to affect everybody Israel doesn't agree with. That's why they don't care about that narrative being put out there like that. They know who it's going to affect. It's not going to go west. It's going to go east. It's like when that volcano erupted somewhere, and I think it was around Yemen or Saudi Arabia. The volcanic ash ended up floating towards India. So NATO, let's just say Spain knows what's going on. They know